he is known for the details. Okay, so he has given the term, like he has made the term important, the less is more in architecture. So he is known for using minimum elements, minimum ornamentation, the minimum walls, minimum columns in his buildings, and he has given utmost attention to detail. So he has given the term God is in details for architecture. Mario Botta. So he is a Swiss architect, and he is known for playing with volumes. So he finds architecture in volumes. Richard Mayer, he is actually an American abstract artist who also practices architecture. So he's also an architect, and he is known for his use of light in his building. So he is very creatively using light in his building. So they are different big architects with who have developed their own styles. So what architecture is basically, it's an idea that meets a need. So need is very important when we talk about architecture. All the clients come to you because they have a need for a house, need for a city, need for a neighborhood. Okay, so that idea has to innovatively met for the future. Why future? Because whatever you design, maybe it's a building or maybe it's a bigger area, it it lives for more than 100 years. Okay, so it has to be futuristic. So all the architects have to be futuristic in their approach. So architecture is also a language. It gives a statement, right? You will understand it because every building, you must have seen all these buildings, the buildings which look like these, the regular buildings, the circular buildings, squarish buildings, the buildings with different shapes. So they all have a reason. They all have a statement. They all have a language. So that's why we also say architecture is a language. So circular form, they are always so I'll just give you some examples. So if there are circular buildings, they are always pointing towards the center. The center is the most important thing, and hence they are mostly known as stable forms. And they can also make you can visualize them as non-stable if the orientation is changed. Triangular forms like pyramids are known to be the most stable forms, right? But if you change the angle when they are tipped to stand on one of its vertices, like Oscar Niemeyer has done is in one of its his museums, so it looks very very dynamic. Square forms, they are generally very pure, very rational. There is no preferred direction. So there are certain kinds of buildings which prefer square forms. There are regular forms which are generally symmetrical. They could be very unique buildings, but they could be very symmetrical and regular. Whereas there could be some other buildings which are very exciting because they are not symmetrical. They are very, they have different materials. There is absolutely no symmetry, no discipline. And that is the statement which these kinds of buildings want to make. Okay, so maybe it is not just one form. It could be addition of different forms, it could be subtraction of different forms. So that is how we make a statement. We give a symbolic meaning to the building. It may not be a very unique building, it could be a regular building, but still every building has some meaning to convey, some message to give. Like these are some of the important buildings like pyramids. They are the symbol of power of the kings of Egypt, right? The Parthenon of Greece is symbol of ancient Greece and democracy, right? Taj Mahal is a symbol of beauty and enduring love. Empire State Building is the symbol of achievement, strength. Similarly, Sydney Opera House is symbol of late modern architecture, or it symbolizes modern Australia. So modern day symbolism, all the buildings which we see around us, the skyscrapers, they represent financial success and the leadership. Okay, the moment we see a skyscraper, very tall building, we know it's symbolizing financial success. The domes, if it is a public building, government building, and has domes on top of it, then it represents power. Irregular forms represent dynamism, motion, informality. Glass walls represent modernism and transparency. So this is an example. It's a very interesting building designed by Frank Gehry, who, like I told in previous slide, known for experimentation. So it's a data center known for research. So it looks unfinished. It looks as if it is about to collapse. Columns are tilting at scary angles. The walls, the materials, they are all inconsistent with each other. So there is no particular discipline which is shown in this building. So it is a metaphor of the daring which is required to conduct research, right? So the building is also a metaphor of the philosophy of the building which it represents. So now that is a brief about architecture, what is the symbolic meaning of the different buildings and how you should read the buildings. Now, what is planning? Planning is the physical layout of human settlements. So wherever more human beings are living, it is the layout of those settlements. So what happens is, um, it includes everything. It includes the housing layouts, the water bodies, the water supply, sanitation, solid waste management, everything encompassing is the planning. It's a 4 years course, and we teach you all about the planning things. So there are different types of special organizations. If you would have visited different cities, you would have seen that many times it's a centralized city, so that there is a one most powerful, most important monument or something in the center of the city, and everything else is arranged around it. Otherwise, other settlements are linear. So there is a main road, or maybe some natural feature or a river or something goes linearly from a city, and all the other settlements, everything else is planned in a linear fashion along along the linear feature. Then there are radial organizations wherein there are important aspects, and the arrangement is done in the linear fashion along in the radial manner. Then there are clusters. So clusters are made of different residential units or commercial units, and finally they are all connected together to make a whole. Then there is a grid organization. This is a map of Chandigarh, which most of you must have visited. So it is a designing a city in a grid pattern. So there are different styles in which the settlements are planned, or even if they are not planned, even if they are organic, there is still a certain reason to it, certain logic to the settlement. So built environment is when architecture and planning, they all come together. So everything else around us which is built is called as built environment. So architecture and planning, they all are under the umbrella of built environment. All the buildings, the roads, the culverts, the water drains, bridges, roads, everything else is built environment, and planners are responsible for creating that built environment for us. So built environment, including architecture and planning, has different dimensions which are all interlinked. Okay, so these will be the main areas of education when you enter a architecture or planning school, like social or psychological. Why psychology is important? Because we will always be designing buildings for people uh, who would be using it. Okay, so we have to know how they think, right? How they react to the building, because it is very important, because um, building your building in which you are staying continuously affects you, so you have to know the psychology of that person. Then social, uh, when you are actually designing a township or a neighborhood, you have to know about the whole society which you are going to use that. Cultural, you have to know what kind of festivals are celebrated, how people interact with each other, what are the cultural norms, the traditions, everything, so that you design a fully functional settlement for them. The physical aspects are very important. Physical aspects are the dimensions, the material, the brick, the cement, paints, everything that is physical comes into the physicality. Then economical aspects. So when you are actually studying in a architecture school, we do teach you about specifications, the estimating, costing of the building, everything. But during education, economical aspects are not that important, because nobody is paying for it. The moment you enter the field, you realize that it's everything is about economy, because people are spending lakhs and crores on your one decision. So you have to be very thorough with the knowledge of your decision, the economic implications of your decision. Then the technology, we all know that technology is advancing every day. There is new things, new technology coming into the market. So we have to know about the latest trends in the technological innovations which are happening, right? And the most important is environmental. So environment has a deep impact on our social life, our well-being, our physical, economical, everything. And if you are not sensitive about the environment, our cities are going to be in mess. Our buildings are going to be in mess. which is happening to a certain extent at this point of time. So environmental aspects are also very, very important, and all these dimensions are totally interlinked with each other, and they are all part of education in any architecture and planning school. So why should you be studying architectural planning? We are coming to the education part. Now we have seen what is architecture, what is planning, and why should you be studying architectural planning if you want to become a fantastic problem solver? Okay, because architecture or planning is always starts with a problem. Okay, always starts with a need, and you have to find a unique solution to that problem. You like to travel the world because there are buildings and cities everywhere, and you have to experience them, you have to feel them to find how they are responding to the users. So traveling is part and parcel of education in architecture, as well as whenever you go for practice in architecture or planning fields, traveling will be part of your life. If you enjoy making things, because many times you have to actually discover new details and make new things. So if you enjoy, if you're creative enough and you enjoy making things, it's your field. You enjoy teamwork, because architecture and planning, they are the professions where lots of stakeholders are involved. There would be clients, there would be different consultants, structural person, the lighting consultant, the HVAC consultant. All these people have to work together. So if you enjoy teamwork, then it is a profession. You like diverse topics, as we have discussed, there are lots of dimensions. There are sociology, there is psychology, there is environment, there is materials, everything. So, and all these topics are quite diverse from each other, right? So if you like knowledge of all the diverse topics, then you might enjoy getting admission into architecture and planning school. Then you like experimenting. If you like experimenting, because every problem, every project is going to be a new different thing. So if you like to experiment with new things and finding new and unique solutions, you will enjoy this field. You like to meet amazing people, since it's a teamwork, you will be meeting so many new people every day. So if you like it, then it's a field. You like to think out of the box, because you have to be creative, and you like to have fun, because since there is a lot of traveling, there is a lot of experimentation, meeting people, teamwork, then it is actually not a dull profession, it's a very, very colorful and fun profession, right? But at the same time, we have to know that as architect, as planners, the decision taken by us are very, very important, because people are spending lakhs and crores. In fact, sometimes their whole life savings, or they are taking huge loans, and our decisions affect their all their wealth. So you can't go back on your decision. Once the thing is made, otherwise there'll be huge losses. So that's why, for making sound decisions, good education is very, very important. So for that, lots of, so because of that, architecture and planning education is little different than all other kinds of education, right? So most of our education happens in the studio. Studios is like, we have drawing boards, because you will be making lots of plans, and you will be making lots of city layouts, conceptual plans. So you'll be working on drawing boards. So there are lots of technological aids these days, AutoCAD, Revit, 3D Max, so all kinds of software are there, which could be used for creating new things. And you can actually visualize the things in the 3D form. And every day there is new technological innovation coming into market. And actually it's very, very easy nowadays to experiment with the new forms. Hands-on learning is very important in the field, because especially in architecture, hands-on learning, because if there is a new idea, you have to actually work it out in a form of a small model. So unless you make it, you won't be able to tell yourself and others that it is workable. So that's why there is a lot of exploration that happens in the laboratories in such schools. Study tours are very, very important, because a lot of learning happens in tours, as we said. You can't actually learn architecture just sitting in classrooms, right? So you have to go into the field, see the buildings, see how they're responding, see how they were made, the historic buildings, the new buildings, contemporary buildings, the very, very advanced buildings. Everything has to be seen and felt. So In the architecture and planning schools, tours are conducted on annual basis regularly. Then all these during tours during different visits, documentation has to be done by the students so that you are sensitive about knowing what things are important and what are less important. Learning on sites is also very important, and they're part of all the architecture schools across India, because you can't be just sitting in the classrooms and deciding what should be built unless you know how it is built. Okay, so it is regular site visits are always scheduled for all the students of architecture and also planning. So these are the pictures of some of the architectural projects which students produce. These are the images of some of the planning projects which happen on a bigger area at a city level or a neighborhood level. So when you make all these plans, you make the drawings, you make the models, you make a presentation, then you have to give the presentation to a set of jury members who are experts in these fields, and your classmates and your juniors, everybody. And then they actually give you crits. They discuss your design, they tell you what should have been done or not. And after the discussion, you get your degrees. So, what are the career prospects? So, coming to the next session of this presentation, what are the career prospects in this field, in the field of architecture? So, an architect is a person who plans, designs, and oversees the construction of building, that we know. Okay, so we know that in the architecture school we will be trained to plan the design, plan and design the building, and see how it is constructed on site. So you can be your own boss, right? You can start your own practice straight away after 5 years of course. It's a long course. It's a 5 years course with one full semester of practical training, wherein you have to actually go to some office and work at that office for almost 6 to 8 months. So after that you are trained enough to start your own practice. So that, and you earn really well when you start your own practice, you start getting your project. So it's a very fruitful profession that ways. So but if you, for some reason, if you want to develop some expertise in the field, so there are different career options which you can choose from, right? So first one is, which is very most popular, is interior designer. Okay, so interior designing, there is a master's course in interior designing. So even if you don't want to go and do the masters, you can straight away start designing the interiors of buildings. So this is one field which never goes out of fashion, because people keep renovating their houses and keep so there are lots of work like plumbing, there are finishing, ventilation, light. So people keep upgrading their houses, and they always need interior designers for doing so. You can become a lighting architect. Okay, lighting architect is, again, is a very niche field which is coming up these days, because more and more public buildings have acknowledged the importance of lighting in the effects which are created by the lighting in their profession, in their field, in their market maybe. So there are specialized courses for that. There are specialized online courses or even regular courses for being a lighting architect, or you can actually develop this expertise on your own also through some research. You have to know what kind of lighting fixtures are available and how you can actually create special effects in the buildings through the lighting. So this is, you can actually specialize in becoming a lighting architect. Then there is sustainability consultant. So you must have read about all the environmental crises our cities are facing these days, right? The air quality going down and all. And these days, that's why there is a lot of emphasis happening on sustainability now, because there are lots of certification agencies. The Indian certification agencies like GRIHA or international ones like GBCI, they certify your buildings. Like it's a platinum rated green building, or it is a little lower level of green building. So, and there is a lot of advantage when you're doing international business. There is a lot of advantage people get for having their offices in sustainable buildings. So that's why many clients, many corporates, they actually go for certification, and they employ a sustainability consultant. So you have to do all the energy calculations, and you have to tell them how you can make the same building in a more sustainable way. Or even for a new building, you can always suggest how the new building could be made more environment friendly and consuming very less energy. So you can also become a sustainability consultant if you just pass few exams given by GBCS. So you will be a authorized sustainability consultant. Then there is one interesting field of conservation and restoration architects. So many architects during the time of their education, they realize that they have interest in history. So if you are interested in history and otherwise also, there is a field, there is a master's course in conservation or restoration. Okay, so generally it is called as conservation architect. So what you do, you understand the buildings and you understand how to conserve and preserve those historic buildings and repair them from time to time. So looking after the heritage of your country, or you can even work abroad. So the specialization allows you to do that. Then there is a upcoming field called architectural journalism. So journalism, there is this specialized branch of architecture journalism in which you write about buildings, you write about historic buildings, new buildings, anything about buildings. So this is again a niche field which is coming up, and there are many journalists who are taking up architectural journalism as their specialization, and many architects also go into journalism after completing their course and actually take this up. Then there is landscape architect. You must have seen, there are big parks and gardens, playgrounds. Then even in residential areas, there are big campuses wherein these kinds of landscape architects are hired. So landscape architecture is again a specialized field. It is called as MArch in Masters of Architecture in Landscape Architecture. So it's again specialized 2 years course, and generally all the top real estate agencies or top architects, they have landscape architects on their field, on their teams, who look after all the exteriors of the projects, or city level projects, even the roads, the culverts, everything they look after. Valuation architecture, again this can be, you can actually uh, take this specialization after completing few courses. Okay, you can actually do some courses which are of duration of 15 days, 20 days, which teach you about evaluating a property, which is very important for many things like insurance, maintenance, tax payment. So there are many legal aspects, and for that you have to know the exact value of some building. So there is this course which architects do, and actually it's a very well paid project if you get valuation projects for some important buildings. Construction manager, again it's a specialized thing, master of architecture in construction management, wherein you are taught about all the aspects of managing constructions for huge big projects, so in which you have to actually coordinate with all the consultants, all the coordinators, all the suppliers and everything. And you have to actually oversee the construction of any project from when it starts to the completion. So all the things are managed by you if you do this specialization of construction manager. So it is going one step ahead after architecture, because architecture's job is to design the buildings and get the sanctions and all, and construction manager sees that all the buildings and projects are built on site. Now there is one, this profession is planner. So many times you must have seen people are architect and planners, right? So in planning, so this is a course of masters in planning. So you do M-Plan, master in planning, and there are 5 specializations for that. Like these, the important 5 specializations are: one is urban planning, then there is a urban planning which generally deals with all the cities. Then there is transportation planning. So transport planners, they can actually they generally are employed in transport related government jobs or private jobs, and they look after all the transport network of the country. Environment planning, generally it is again planning and environment, and they look after all the environmental aspects, all the protected areas and the air quality of the entire city and everything. Housing, again, it's a specialized branch of planning, and they look after only housing in any urban settlement. Regional planning is generally on a bigger area. You will have cities, you will have smaller villages, and you will have everything around in that region. So, because you can't actually develop urban area on its own, okay, it is generally the whole region which gets affected. So, regional planning. So many times there are degrees like urban and regional planning. So if you are doing after architecture or after B plan, even after B planning, you do generally M planning and you choose one of these five branches: urban planning, transport planning, environment planning, housing, or regional planning. Many times there is a course on urban and regional planning. So if you do that course, urban and regional planning, you will be eligible to apply for both urban planning as well as regional planning related jobs. So that is about planning. So since we're talking about planning, we'll see what are the prospects of urban and regional planning in India. So it is known that, so we all have been watching news and all, and we know that our cities are generally not doing well. There are lots of crises which our Indian cities are facing, of overcrowding, of the environmental crisis, the transportation blockages. So, and that is somehow because our planners are not getting enough due. So it is known that because government is now investing a lot on development of cities and development of regions, especially through the smart cities projects, and there are numerous other projects in which the urban and regional planners are employed. So it is said that the employment of urban planners is going to grow 13% in the next almost 10 years, 2016 to 2026. It was as per the employment outlook of India. So, so what do urban planners do is within cities they are required for all the urban redevelopment related projects, all addressing all the issues. There are slums, there is huge population, then there is environmental degradation that is happening, the transportation, the resource scarcity, there is water shortage, electricity, all these, the solid waste management, all these issues are the crisis somehow, and all the urban development projects deal with them, and all the urban planners work on these kinds of projects. Municipal corporations also need planners for taking care of the cities. Then planners talk to the community. They have to know what community needs for the short term things, and there are long term plans. And they often collaborate with all the government officials, engineers, environments, architects, real estate developers, lawyers. So it's again an interdisciplinary field wherein you have to be constantly communicating with everybody and finally making your development plans. So, what are the roles and responsibilities of planners? So roles and responsibilities of planners are generally they meet public officials, the government, and they conduct a lot of research, collect lots of data from all the different organizations, and then they make development plans, the master plans for 5 years, for 10 years, and all those things. So who are the prospective employers for planners? So this is again we're talking only about planning. So there are lots of government jobs. So generally, people who prefer planning, they are looking for government jobs. Although there are great amount of private jobs also for the planners, but the main public sectors which keep employing the urban planners are development authorities, for example, DDA, Delhi Development Authority, the town and country planning organizations, the state, all the state town planning departments have their own planners, the team of planners. Even in all the cities, there is a town planner. The municipal corporations, they have a team of planners to take care of the cities. National Institute of Urban Affairs, there are lots of institutes like these which conduct research on urban affairs, urban areas, urban development. So, the research organizations like these, HUDCO, which is Housing and Urban Development Corporation, and its regional offices. HUDCO has regional offices in almost all the cities and all the states. Then State Industrial and Infrastructure Development Corporation, because the industries and infrastructure development cannot happen if there are no planners on board. So they also generally take planners. State transport corporations, especially if you have done masters in transport planning, then all the state transport corporation, even the national level NIHA and all, they have all the transport planners working for them. Then planning based academic institutes. So there are lots of academic institutes who are actually running courses on planning, who are conducting research on urban development and planning, and you can get employed in that. And there are different research institutions, the government research institutions, which are doing research in this. The other opportunities other than government are various national and international NGOs. Lots of international NGOs, national NGOs are conducting research in urban areas, especially for slum people and water related issues, solid waste management issues. So they also have, to make more realistic projects, they also have planners on their board. Then the real estate consultants, the big consultants like DLF and all, they all have planners on their team. The corporate firms dealing in various planning aspects, even UNDP, which is United Nations Development Program, the World Bank. You must have seen lots of World Bank reports who are talking about lots of urban issues. So all these people, they have a huge team of urban planners to work for them. Many other UN institutes also like UNICEF and all. Although planning is not a mainstream profession in them, but they also have certain vacancies for urban planners. So now, if you have to take admission into a BR course or a B plan course, Bachelor of Architecture or Bachelor of Planning course, then for BR, two things you have to see wherever you are taking admission. So you have to see that if it is a BR course, Bachelor of Architecture, it has to be recognized by Council of Architecture. Because if it is not, you will not be able to. If your institution wherein you are graduating is not affiliated, not recognized by Council of Architecture India, you will not be able to practice or you will not be able to teach. So it is very important that you check it. Okay, and the eligibility of the courses, you have to have passed your class 12th with PCM. Physics, chemistry, mathematics are important. A minimum of 50% marks in 10 plus 2. Entrance exam is JE paper 2, cutoff 60, or NATA exam, which is and cutoff score is 70. Now, if you have to take a B planning course, Bachelor of Planning, so you have to know that your institute has to be recognized by Institute of Town Planners India, which is ITPI. So now this recognition is very important, because if your institution wherein you are graduating is not recognized by ITPI, then you will not be eligible for taking the government jobs, right? So there is a membership which you get after graduating, which you will not get if your institute is not recognized, and only the members can apply for government jobs. So it is very important to check, and not many colleges or schools in India are recognized by ITPI. There are only 23 or 25 something institutes which are recognized, and most of them are the government institutes and very few private institutes, including our Amity University Gurugram is recognized by ITPI, but there are very few of them. So it is very important wherever you are taking admission, you have to check these recognitions. And eligibility for a B plan course is the aspirant must have passed 10 plus 2 examination with 50% marks in any stream, but mathematics has to be a subject. Okay, so it could be any stream, but mathematics is compulsory for Bachelor of Planning. So now, as all of you must be wondering, if I assume most of you are students of class 12th and you are still figuring out which course to take, and that is the reason you are actually taking this webinar. So NATA is the entrance exam, qualifying exam for architecture, right? So NATA 2020 was scheduled to be conducted on 19th of April, which got postponed. And the second NATA was happening on 30th of May. Again, we don't know it will happen or not. And most of the NATA coaching centers also must be closed right now because of all the lockdown. So we as industry leaders, we feel that all the students who are aspirants, who are very talented, who may not get enough guidance because of the lockdown and because of non-functioning of NATA centers. So we have planned a 2-day course on how to prepare for NATA. Okay, in which our Amity University faculty would be guiding the students on 4th and 5th May for preparing for NATA. So this is the syllabus for NATA. The drawing test is the most important. So there is an exam for almost 200 marks. So drawing test is for 125. PCM is also there. So I'm sure you must have prepared the PCM, and it is the basic ones only. 22.5 marks, not very high percentage. And the general aptitude and logical reasoning, which is for 52.5 marks. So we will be guiding you for all these three components in those 2 days, and we'll be providing you the reading material also, preparation material also. We'll be conducting a mock test, and our faculty also will be available even after the course if you have some doubts. So we will be there to solve your doubts anytime. So I would say that you can actually enroll for this NATA course and prepare for NATA on your own with her, with the guidance of us. So I
Thank you,
think,
ma'am.
yeah, that's all.
We have FAQ session, and
Yeah.
the first question it is there. Can you
Mhm.
please help some exact difference about thesis and dissertation at masters and PhD level?
Masters and PhD level. Okay.
Yeah.
So, in masters level, the dissertation or the thesis, whatever you call, some people call it dissertation, some people call it thesis. So it is for one semester. One semester is for almost 4 to 5 months effectively, and you can't actually produce too much in that month, in that short time, because you'll be collecting data also, so expectations are little less. Whereas in PhD, you have to you PhD goes on for 3 to 4 years, and generally in PhD, also in master's thesis also, you have to actually produce something on your own, you have to contribute to the field. Okay, so in master's level it could be on a very small scale, a very small problem, but in a PhD it will be a more detailed one. The data would be more comprehensive, the process would be more rigorous, and it will take a longer duration. And you have to actually challenge a theory, or you have to actually produce something which is a very valuable contribution to the profession. I hope it is
Thank you,
clear.
ma'am. Yeah, ma'am. The next question is, there is a lot of discussion about future cities in India.
Yeah.
Can you explain a little bit about whether how we are covering up this into the curriculum?
Okay. So, yeah, there is a lot of discussion on future cities because of the huge technological advancement. We are using technology in all the fields. So you must have you must be knowing about the smart cities, in which we are using huge technological interventions in making the city smarter in terms of environmental sustainability, the traffic transportation, everything. So in our curriculum, we have these industry partners, and which actually look after our curriculum. We have one subject specially on project based learning, in which we collaborate with the industry partners, and students actually work on the real life projects, because of which, through which they actually come to know about the latest technology which is being used in the market, and we are relevant. So because so through this project based learning in our school especially, we actually keep pace with the market developments, and we are realistic in terms of future cities.
Okay. The next question is, it is generally meant that architecture is not meant for the girls. Can you please share some
Hmm.
insights about it?
Yeah, so this is a very debatable topic these days. Not only architecture, even civil engineering, any field jobs, anywhere where girls have to go into the field, because as you must have seen in the lecture that girls are generally the field trips, the study tours, and everything is part of the curriculum, and traveling is part of life. And you have to go on the sites where there are laborers and all. So, in Indian mentality, we still have this apprehension that girls, the women, are not very safe on the sides, and hence they feel, people feel. But still, there is a different trend which is happening nowadays. More and more girls. In fact, in architecture schools, we see there are 60% girls in most of the batches and 40% boys. So many times, but it is relevant in all the professions, because girls sometimes at a later stage they get married and all, and they don't prefer field jobs, but the trends are changing. More and more girls are working these days, and more girls are taking the challenge of getting the field jobs, and hence this question is kind of getting addressed. So there are many interventions wherein people are actually inducing more women into the building industry. So they are training more women. Even there are companies which prefer women only. So they prefer more women to be hired on their jobs, especially the construction sites. There are especially all women construction teams which are being developed, especially in Kerala, and there are some NGOs which are developing where they are taking big projects with all women teams. So they're training the women and developing, constructing the entire project only through women. So all these interventions are happening. Yes, there have been some apprehensions about women not being able to do field jobs till now, but now the trends are changing and we are seeing more participation from girls in these fields now.
Okay, ma'am. The next question is, can you, since again it is coming from the future cities only,
Hmm.
since there is a lot of debate on the future cities, will the scope of planning,
Hmm.
bachelor planning, will improve, or should I take architecture only, or rather, how should I decide it? I mean, it's a elaborative question.
Yeah. See, architecture and planning are little different professions, right? Although they both talk about buildings and all, but architecture is more about designing one building and having your own practice and all. And planning, generally, it depends on your temperament. Architecture, if like I don't know you, but if your temperament is more about you're more enterprising, you want to start your own practice, you want to have your own projects in future, because initially you will be starting your own practice and simultaneously maybe you will start working with some bigger firms and then slowly you will start on your own. But in planning, there is not much scope of starting on your own, but there are good job opportunities. So it is more of starting on your own like a business in architecture and more taking a jobs in bigger organizations. So planning is also more theoretical, because planning subjects, if you see, if you go through our syllabus and all, you will see there are subjects like sociology, demography, and there are theoretical subjects, there are mathematical subjects, statistics bhi hoga thoda bahut, because you have to analyze lot of data and do the mapping and all. Whereas architecture is more creative, it's more artistic, right? So one field is more artistic, wherein you can actually practice on your own, you have more freedom, you are more creative. And in planning, you have to work with many people, you have to actually have the knowledge of many things, many diverse fields, and you will be finally working in bigger organizations, government organizations or private organizations, but will be, yeah, so there is less of scope. People have started their own research organizations, their own research firms in urban development, and they are doing good projects. So they're getting bigger projects from government or something in which they do the research and give it to the government, but final implementation has to be done by the government. So planning is more for getting jobs and working in teams, and architecture is more independent, more creative field.
Dim tan dan din, dim tan dim tan dan din.